When you're tracking, what's it like to work with Jamie?
With Jamie?
Versus other experiences you've had and
the thing I really love about Jamie is like you said earlier, his goal is to make you sound like yourself, but just better.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like their way or no way, which I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with music or anything, it's like everything is a different interpretation to the individual, and
they're the artist. You know.
Yeah.
You know, so I like the fact that Jamie does that, and he really, for me personally, I'm not one of those techie guys that know how to make things happen. I just have a very good ear, and I know what I want something to sound like, and I don't even really have to explain it much to him, and he makes it happen. You know, and that's what draws me. And especially over the years, we, you know, just like the band, you know, you work with someone over and over and over, you all feed off each other and learn from each other and all improve, and you know, we can kind of all speak without speaking in regards to writing, recording, you know. So yeah, it's just gotten really comfortable.
That's awesome.
Quick thing, I just use these cheap Korg tuners.
Yeah.
$30. They're 1 cent accurate. I've used all the best tuners. Like I've used the Peterson strobe tuner, a great tuner. And if I was doing like, you know, detailed intonation and setup and stuff, I would use a more accurate tuner even. But quick note for those at home, some people don't realize, like a lot of your rack tuners and your pedal tuners are like 5 cent accurate. And that's usually great for live because you want it to trace or track the note quickly, which is usually not good enough for the studio. So you usually want to use something that's at least 1 cent accurate. And these particular tuners are, oh, I've got one, yeah, cool. But yeah, that's one thing. I normally, I usually tune all the instruments for the records that I record. I'm kind of OCD about the tuning, you know, because you don't hear a professional record and hear stuff that's out of tune, you know, like horribly out of tune unless it's like a purposely aggressive part or something. But I noticed that different people tune differently, and especially if you use different tuners and things like that. And you know, you have one guy who's like striking the string, like he's tuning like doing that, you know, the string's going sharp, and then the other guy's tuning like, you know, obviously like the tuner will say both people are in tune, but the guitars will be in actually different tuning. So I think, you know, I try to, basically I ask most artists to let me tune the guitars, and that way all the guitars are consistent. And, you know, I try to gauge how the players, you know, play the guitars. Like if a player plays hard, I take in consideration, like this guy's gonna be playing pretty hard. So when I tune, I'm actually gonna pick hard, so I'll get an accurate, you know, representation on, you know, across the board. And same thing with bass, because like when you play fingerstyle or you play pick style, it affects. But yeah, like we'll go ahead and check the tuning on this thing. Tommy's in standard, which is he's one of the few artists that I've dealt with in standard for many, many years. Quick little note about strings. Tommy's got new strings on here.
I don't actually.
Oh, you don't? Or those
are very
they
old.
feel pretty new anyway. But I was going to say, there's not, you know, like I've heard some people, oh, you got to have new strings, you got to have new heads, new everything or whatever. Sometimes not, you know, sometimes.
I think when we recorded, we actually didn't have new strings.
Yeah, you roll with the older strings, you know, because like I said, I mean, they, you know, back in the day, a lot of classic music, you know, they couldn't afford to you know, there was no, hey, let's restring every song like they do now. You know, it was like that. You could tell the strings were dead. You know, it was part of the sound. And so, you know, and it doesn't sound bad to me for those records. You know, for that time, it was kind of.
Yeah, I think it all really depends on the style too.
Yeah,
like
and
more
as many
technical stuff. You know, obviously the new.
You need articulation for that. Yeah, but for some rock stuff, it sounds good to have a warmer tone, smear. So sometimes using some dead strings is ideal. I found on acoustics, I often prefer dead strings. For recording or whatever, it just sounds warmer, you know, more natural. It depends on if you're using the acoustic by itself or blended. But same thing with the guitar or whatever. I mean, you want some not completely dead strings if you're playing chords because you want the notes to come through. But at the same time, this is a rock project, so maybe having the really bright, fresh strings isn't the idea. You can buy the best idea. You can buy tons of different strings. Also, you can buy you know, nickel wound obviously is the standard, but you can get like you know, steels, which are really bright, or you can get flat wound strings, which are really dull. A lot of people just go buy whatever strings their favorite player uses, and it might not be the best string for their sound. Mm-hmm. So as a studio and engineer and producer, I stock strings in my studio, different types of strings in case we need to try something else or try particularly different gauges. A lot of people don't use an appropriate gauge, in my opinion, for their tuning. You know, they'll use 10s, which are standard for, you know, are ideal for standard, but they'll be tuned to like drop B or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and with using 10s, and obviously you get this real, it can work out if you get guitar set up and you play lightly and things like that, but usually it's not going to sound as good if you as good as if you use the appropriate string. But anyway, I'll get into this. Like I said, it's how you pick is important. Usually before each session, like as an engineer producer, it's good to learn about intonation a little bit, to check the instrument, make sure it's playing in tune. I've had so many kids take a guitar to Guitar Center, and a guy he'll say he set the intonation, and it's actually worse than when they took it. You know, there's some legit guys out there where they usually cost money and stuff, but it's, you know, you want a guitar that's going to play in tune, and easy checks or whatever is check it. You know, check the string open. Fret on the 12th fret, it should be in tune there. And it should be in tune high on the neck or whatever. Multiple places on the neck. I always check, at least definitely where, you know, most of the rhythm guitars are going to be in this area, below the 12th fret. And the intonation is great on it. Of course, this is a Paul Reed Smith, so kind of expected. And just like with the drum head thing, I stretch the strings. You notice I'm doing this deal. Like when I usually put fresh strings on, I'm like tune, stretch, until it's just not going out of tune anymore. Obviously with the locking tremolo type guitars, that's going to be a quicker process. But these have locks also, so it kind of works out good.
Do you find that spending more time tuning, focusing on strings, focusing on drum heads, getting the drum heads broken right, and tuning the drums right ends up saving you time?
Absolutely.
In the end?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it saves the artist. It really helps the artist more so than anything, because like once we get in the groove and they're like tracking, we don't have to be like,
Stopping.
man, that was out of tune, let's retune.
And then you've got to think about vocals if somebody's singing.
Yeah, and then they're like, they cool down,
become
you
a
know.
nightmare.
Particularly extreme styles of stuff, you know, like some stuff is just, you know, with progressive metal and stuff like that, it's challenging to do or whatever. So it's like, if you cool back down, you're like warmed up, and then you have to take 30 minutes to like, you know, figure out the tuning issue. It's just and like between the Beardy, I mean, we've gone through all that, you know. Where it's just,
I mean, it's tough when you're in the groove. What we were talking about the other day, you know, some engineers, they take a lot of breaks and stuff, and with Jamie, once we're feeling it, we just, you know, you'll be tracking. Next thing you know, it's been 6 hours have gone by. You know?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like,
great. That's the way I like to roll. I'm there to work.
I try to
now,
take
so.
breaks when it's like, okay, we're at a good stop.
Yeah,
Even if I got
exactly.
to use the bathroom or whatever. If they're hot and the vocals are sounding good, I'm like, I'm just gonna hold it, you know, because he
wears adult diapers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a strategy that we can promote.
You should make the band be in charge of disposal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tommy purposely chose a pretty straightforward song just so we can.
I mean, I wanted to really shred for everybody, but I didn't want to show off.
Yeah, Tommy thinks he can't shred.
I can't. I'm a riffer, man.
I can't do this.
I can't shred. I can riff.
A lot of people don't know that Tommy does a lot of guitar writing for BT Bam, right?
Yeah, not as much as I used to, but yeah.
Used to play for their old band. Some of the members, Paul.
Yeah, we're all old.
Another life.
Yeah. I'm surprised the guitar stays in tune so well with the Bigsby.
Yeah. Great guitar. But yeah, like I said, I'm basically tuning bend until this thing holds tune, and then once I'm satisfied, like, you know, obviously it's a time-consuming process, but we'll just move ahead even if it's out of tune a little bit, just so we can get through it. Well, see, like you notice, like I know Tommy, he plays pretty hard, but it's not like insane, so I'm just kind of doing like a medium. Tommy knows I can spend an hour tuning guitar. Close enough.
We can at least get through this main riff.
Yeah. There you go. And I have a, can you guys see over here? I have a series of pedals. Okay, what I've got going on here or whatever, obviously, I think as a safety, it's important to track guitar directs. You know, some people don't do that, but I think it's a very wise thing. Obviously, you can see the direct signal for quantizing. It makes, you can, you know, use that to align the guitar much better or whatever, because distorted signal, obviously, I'm sure many of you guys know, you can't see the rhythm patterns, but the clean direct signal, you can see the rhythm pattern great. But I'm going into this first, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm using this multi-effects pedal. A lot of people use, you know, because Tommy's got some stuff with some modulation effects, some reverbs, things like that. A lot of times people like to use separate pedals, and they can be great, but I think this is a great multi-effects pedal. It's an older version of a Boss's multi-effects pedal, and you know, it's just got all the Boss's stuff. I'm gonna turn this stuff off first. Normally, any effects that we're not using, normally I would just bypass them and not have them in the chain. Because obviously signal chain, you want minimal distance, minimal cabling, and stuff like that. But we'll leave it all hooked up just for now, for the demonstration purposes. But this thing is, I love this particular pedal. It's a Keeley modified turbo tube screamer. The original regular turbo tube screamer to me is not useful. It's just noisy. But this thing is really cool because you can get a lot of different gain structures happening, different types of overdrives. So it's almost like they've described it as a Swiss Army knife of overdrive pedals. And you can get a lot of different type. You can get a tight, edgy gain. You can get a fat type saturated distortion. And it's a really useful tool to put in front of the amp, just in case your amp, you know, doesn't have the gain structure that you want within the controls here. We'll bypass this for the moment. So everything's bypassed here. But let me turn the standby off and let's see what we have. We got signal outside. Let me check the computer, see what I got going on here. I actually have Tommy's original tracks in here, so I can get rid of those. Thank you.
It's weird, it's like a weird phase because I can hear the outside room.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like I said, we've already kind of set up the preamps. I'm using the APIs, like I said, for the, you know, that's using my my go-to first preamp, you know, to try out. But we've got both the SM57s going into the APIs. I've got it run to the Pro Tools. I'm actually bussing those together in Pro Tools. I have this Guitar 1 in, what is part? Guitar in 2. So I got two inputs, and I don't really know which one is which or whatever, but we'll be able to tell. The one in the center is going to have more high end and more low end, less mids. The one in the off-axis mic is going to have more mid-range, less high ends. So, like I said, we'll be able to hear for the blends. So we can. What's cool in here within Pro Tools, we can control our blend of the two mics. Oftentimes, I'll just, you know, sometimes I'll just roll with just one of the mics, but sometimes I'll blend a little bit of the off-axis. And every once in a while, when I have a really thin tone happening that I kind of am digging for whatever reason, like I'll just blend it all the way. But we have complete control how I have it bust in here. And I'm bringing it in. Here's my direct signal for our first rhythm track, and here's our amp signal. But Tommy, yeah, just play as I'm going to make sure I've got a good direct signal coming in. It's clean. We got a good amp signal coming in, and this busing is still clean. It's not clipping out or anything. Play again, Tommy, and see. Would help to unmute the monitors. But cool. But go ahead and play it for me, Tommy. It's actually, yeah. Yeah, one of the big things with a guitar tone, like I said, I think the most of the tone comes from the player's hands and the pickups. A lot of people underestimate how much big of a deal the pickups are. You know, if you want a clean, jangly tone, then chances are using a single coil with a, with a Fender Strat or a Telecaster is going to be the best choice. If you want like a rock sound, this has got great rock. It's designed, obviously designed for like a rock type sound. And if you want a metal sound, get a metal guitar with some EMG actives or something like that that's designed for, or some passives that are designed for more aggressive tones. And that's usually key or whatever. It's like a lot of people think it's all the amp, and the amp's just like, I'm thinking like 25% of the tone.
Yeah.
To me.
Wow.
But yeah, like I said, the first tracks that we're going to do will be Tommy's rhythm tones, and like I said, we had his original tracks. Let me refresh my memory as to what those sounded like. Pretty mid-range. Kind of liking the new sound, maybe better.
Yeah.
Should we re-record them?
Yeah, we can go for a fresh take on it. But I think I may have had a less mid-range sound because you have the lead over top of that.
Yep.
And for contrasting layering, which we'll get into next segment, for contrasting layering, I had a mid-scoop sound for the rhythm.
See, I'm
and then
interested in that. That's
I
cool.
had more mids, a different type of tone for the lead, so that there was space.
Yeah.
And that's important to the mix to have everything defined space and have contrast. So let's go ahead and scoop out the mids. Go ahead and play, Tommy. You like it better with or without? That's without.
I honestly don't really notice.
Yeah, it's a slight difference. What I'm using,
It's a little grittier with it, right?
yeah, the width, like I said, I'm using this one. The settings are all the way down. It's got what's called the baked mod on the Keeley, which is awesome. I think it gives it a little extra bite on the top end and some clarity, which really helps in the mix, especially when you're layering up. Like you want, and this, being able to do this, like you can actually control the level of the volume that you're hitting the preamp section with, as opposed to changing on the guitar, which affects the pickup sound.
Right.
But you can actually change the level and kind of tailor it for the part. And I like to be kind of liquid with my gain structure for the part. Like if we have a part that's like big chords, like if he has some stuff that's just articulate notes, we might need a little extra gain or drive. And you could do that by not even changing the tone, but just changing how much you turn up the level of this particular pedal.